Samech Vav, Chaf Aleph Sivan, Hatashil Samech page Kuf Ein.
Right, so we got into a re-examination of the Das that the Ramach Zal going to get to the Loshen Ein Seif. According to his opinion, Ein Seif refers to the Atzmus HaBoirei, Mahus Atzmus HaBoirei Mamish, and according to the Ramach, there's no other entity or Metzias apart from the Atzmus, and then later the Nimtzoim and the Nivroim. There's no, like, what you might call medium or middle stage or point between the Atzmus and the Nertzolim and later the Nimtzoim, which means that he holds, and he has to explain in some way how the actual Isavas takes place from Ein Seif, which is referring mamish to Atzmusei. And so we saw that involves difficulties according to his view. And that's basically where we were holding. At Mikomokim Gamkein Eir Shaloima Kedas Haramachzal. The Eir Shaloima, it's going to be our Maskana. The Bechina Hanikra Ein Seif, according to him, Hu Mamish Musei Vatzmusei Shalaboirei. It's for the very essence and the mahus of the Creator himself. The Ein Shum Metzias Zulas Madrega Zu, and there's no other entity like in the middle, like you might say, a middle point, apart from this Madrega. In other words, the Madrega of the Ein Seif himself. Anikro Ein Seif, which could be called by the name Ein Seif. Now the word Ein Seif refers only to the very essence of the Boirei Biatzmei. The Imkein, said the Rebbe, Harei, it follows Lefis here, the Hisavas or Ilamas, the coming into being, or the word of creation, or the making of the Ilamas, Humia Atzmus Mamish. That's what we have to say. Since Ein Seif is the only Madrega claiming that name, and that's Mahusi Ve'at, that's Musei Mamish, then that means that the Isavas must have been directly from Atzmusei or Mahusei. Ve'im Kain Eich Loi Shonisi. How can we possibly say Ani Hashem Loi Shonisi? Because we've already seen in the Shitta of the Mekubalim HaRishonim, and for that matter the Ramah Mipano, and we saw the tremendous new concept in that field of the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, and we saw that all of them hold that there's some entity or level between the Atzmus and the beginning of the Nertzolim, and that's what the Alter Rebbe calls the Oyer. He calls that Oyer Ein Seif, and we saw that that's also a Mechudash Me'ito Yizbarach, and the power of the Ein Seif, which is found in that Oyer, is only mitzad me'ein ha-moer, not mitzad atzmei, not that is a madrega b'emes of Ein Seif. Even the other Mekubalim and the Ramah Mipano, they hold that there is such a level, they call it Ritzaynei or Keser Elyon, and according to them, also we have the Mila, that there's like an intermediary point between the Atzmus and the Nertzolim. However, the difficulty with their shitta was that they called it Kadmein, or they gave it a getter of Kadmusei Kadmus Ein Seif, and that led us into other difficulties. Although they also presented this concept of an intermediary level in order to avoid discussion, which we're just asking now. How can you refer the very Hisavas itself to the Atzmus HaBoirei? If you do, then you automatically involve a Shaila, how Aniya Vayaloisha Nishi, how can it be that there's no change whatsoever in the very Atzmus? However, now, according to the Ramach, that he holds that Ein Seif is the name only for Mahusi Vatzmusei, and there's no other level between him and the Nertzolim. What does he do in Cain with the pasuk from the pasuk of Ani Avai Loisha. Dahagam, that even though you may say Sha'ena mislabish po ilamas, you will answer according to him that the Eibusha doesn't enter the ilamas in the form of an intimate islabshus, derech levush, but he does it in the form of Sivan. Well, that's what we pointed out already in the name of the Ramach, that we would answer for him somewhat that the relationship of the Ein Sof, meaning Mahusei, to the elements is B'derech Sivan, not B'derech Mamali, which is Mislavish. Mislavish meaning Pnimi. So therefore, even though he will say that it's not B'derech Pnimi, Mikol Mokim Hari Upchinas Moker Ela elements, he'll have to say that one way or another the Ein Sof, Atzmusei, Mahusei, is a Moker for the elements, because it comes only from him. So even though he doesn't become mislavish b'toichoi, and he remains machifalov, but nonetheless he is still the moker of all the nivroim. Umeyachashu p'chinas moker, since he is self-authority, he is literally the source point from which they all derive. Hagam shezeu shenisavo elamas b'derech mamela. Hagam, that it's in a form of almost of its own self, mamela. Now, of course, we don't mean anything mamela really, lamela. You can't really say mamela, because everybody admits that everything is with the Eibusha's intention. So you can't say that it's in an even for mamela. However, we mean mamela in the sense that it doesn't really affect his etzem being, it doesn't really affect his etzem achtas. So Emes, the Ramach will be able to avoid the kasha from Ani Avai Shanisi directly, and he'll say, well, it's only B'derech Mamela, meaning Sivan, Leibeplinus Islabshus, not a direct entry into the elements. Be'im Kain, Ein Zeh B'plinus Shinui of his pilus mamish. If he does it in a even that he is machif alo elements, and doesn't enter them or directly relate to them at the beginning of the hisavas, so then it's not a union of change and inter-reaction. His pilus, meaning the idea of literally emotional reaction, meaning the idea of an inter-effect from one thing to another. So we can't say that it's mamish ashinu, these pilus are being affected mamish by the bringing about of the elements. Mikol mokim nonetheless, Emes, you won't be able to say it's mamish shinui veis pilus. However, you won't be able to say legabi diatzmas that loy shonisi with all of the implication of that pasuk. Why? Why won't you be able to say with all the implications of the pasuk loy shonisi? So he said for two reasons. Hein, both, meaning number one, mitzad etzem ha'isavas, just the very fact that he's brought something about, albeit he's not a mokir b'derech pnimi, and he's not a mokir b'derech hislavshus. He's only ki'ilu makifalov, but since he brought it about and it came from him, then he's the etzem ha'isavas causes some form of a alteration, legabi, what you might call his situation. So he won't be able to say, leishonisi klau. Tahari mikol mokim hu boiru ma'aves ha'elemet. The truth of the matter is that no matter what you'll say, albeit b'derech makif and not b'derech hislavshus, or if he's the only Ein Sof and there's no other inin between him and the element, that means that he directly brought about the mahusei ve'atzmusei. Amamila, it follows lefizeh that automatically means that there's something there mitzad his atzmus that wasn't there before. In other words, there's a whole series of minyanim which came from him. So albeit they came in a way that he's not mishpoel mizer mamash, it's derech makif, derech soiv, of sof they're there compared to him, as you might say, pertaining in some way directly to him, because he's their mocker. He has to somehow or another reckon with them. So therefore it's indirectly Aisha Shonisi. If you were the only entity and then all of a sudden there's another entity, Legabi, your own one and only being, then you have to reckon with it. You can't just say that it doesn't cause you any what you might call yachas yachas to that thing, and if imkain, then you can't say it's not loy shanisi. You can't say, I'm sorry, it's loy shanisi in the full sense. Vahain and mitzad another inyan. He said, and both also mitzad the inyan from rotzen le ishavas, la ishavas, shari koidim shenisavu loy oilamas, va'ola beretzeinoi lahaves. If the Atzmus Amahus, he brought about the inyan of the oilamas, so then there's been a rotzen in the Atzmus Amahus, which means that there was a point where he did want, and there's a point prior to that where he hadn't wanted, and that's what it means that he brought them about. If they came about from him, then that means that there was a point where he didn't want them to be, and now he does. That's an alteration, actually, in the very essence of the Eibishter, because he had a will. What a will means, that he had a will that this be. Prior to that, he didn't have such a will. And we've already said on a couple of occasions here that if we say that the Atzmas has a will, that's a form of a shinui in him. If he has mamish a will, then that means that he didn't have the will, and now he has it. Well, that implies some form of an occurrence within the pshitas of the Atzmas to what? And if you're going to say that the Yisavas comes from the Atzmas and Mahuz, and eventually you're going to have to say that there was some form of a shinui, both mitzad the very fact that they're there, and mitzad the sheni, mitzad the very essence that there must have occurred to him a rotzen that those things be. Hare kol zeu p'china shinui. All these inyanim indicate a type of shinui. De'eno shayach loy makain chas v'sholem be'atzmas haboira. You can't very well say that in the atzmas haboira. Is this thing working at all? I mean, it's very, very stuffy in here. What's the trouble? I mean, we have an air conditioner and it doesn't work.
No, it works. It's turned on very well.
I mean, you guys don't know how to use it. I mean, you're all looking at it as some sort of a mysterious creature or something that you've never seen in your life. What's your trouble? You don't know how to use it?
Try to program it as you move around.
Oh yeah, get that seat.
I mean, we have to train somebody that you should know how to use it.
Yeah, fine, good, it's good.
All right. But that's not going to be too strong now. I don't know. But the way it was before was quite intolerable. I even felt that I was running out of fresh air. Either we have to have all the windows open, or we have to have the thing. We can't sit in a closed room and no conditioning. I mean, we can, but I don't know if it's a good idea. Then if Isavas is directly mi atzmuse mehusei, then there must be some trace of a shinui, albeit not a direct shinui of his pilots, of an indirect form of shinui which wouldn't fit with a pasuk ani avayalisha ichi, and therefore is a shayach loima kein chas v'sholem biatzmusa a boirei in the very essence of the Eibishter himself. You can't say those in him. V'gam Shalima, according to the Ramak or anybody else, you can't say Shalo yesh Matthias anikro oyer ein seif zulas Matthias ha. It's impossible, says the Rebbe, to hold that there's no other entity apart from the very Matthias of the Atzmas which can be given the term Oyer Ein Seif. In other words, what he's negating is in effect what we're going to end up saying. What we're going to end up saying is that there's the Atzmas of Oyer, then there's another whole entity, what you might call midpoint entity, which is called the Oyer, albeit in that Oyer there are going to be Madregas, and maybe even several Madregas. But it's going to be an inch oil, and then it's going to be the Tzimtzum Harishoin, and then it's going to be the beginning of Sphiris and Tzolim, and eventually Oilames. That's the pattern that we're eventually going to go for. So the Rebbe says we can't say that that's not the case. and relate everything to the Atzmus HaBorei for the reason we just said. Now he's coming from another way. He's coming now to say that you can't deny in the very essence of the Makoros that we have, which we'll soon start quoting them, that there's no other entity apart from the Atzmus, like as it were, medium Madrega in the middle. You can't say that, and for several reasons. Taharei, Mikol Mokim, Omar Bapicha de Rabbi Eliezer. After all, it's brought down in the Medrash of that famous Pircha de Rabbi Eliezer, Ad Shaloi Nivra Ha'olam Hoyahu Shmoila Levod. Until Shaloi Nivra Ha'olam. And so we've tied that doesn't just mean the actual Bria of the Olam as Biyah, but actually Nivra means that even the Tzimtzum HaRishon, even the Makoros, how they were very high in Gilel Elokus for the world, that's called Nivra Ha'olam. Ad Shaloi Nivra Ha'olam, till there weren't those states or those preparations for the world, there was Hu Ushmoi. So that it was, from that we see clearly that apart from Hu, there was also a Inyan, Hare Oma Gam Kein Bechinas Shmoi. He not only mentioned Hu, which we can be taken in a general way, as referring to Atzmusei, he also mentions a level that he calls Shmoi. Uksiv, and it's written, Ani Havaya Hu Shmi. This is a lotion in the Novi, this is a lotion in the Beam, this is not in the Torah. Ani Havaya Hu Shmi. So the Eivshter says that I am literally Havaya, but you should know that that's only my name. In other words, that it would imply that I'm really not I'm not the Shem Havaya. I am the Shem Havaya in the sense that it's my name. In the sense that it refers to me. In that regard, you can say that I am the Shem Havaya. But that implies that my very essence and the Inyan of the Shem Havaya are two Inyanim, aren't they? Hello? Aren't they? So maybe put it back on the table if you'll be so kind. Okay. Ani Havaya Hu Yeshmi V'Hapirush the Shem Havaya Hu Rak B'chinas Shmoi. From that it follows that the Shem Havaya is only the name of the Eibishter. Avo Hu Atzmei L'mayla Mibchinas Shmoi. So here were the two indications, both from the Pasuk in the Novi and from the statement of the Pircha of Rabbi Eliezer, that there's a of the very essence of Hashem, He Himself, and then there's a thing which He calls my name, Shmi, a Madrega which is called His name. Now it's well known that the Shem Havaya is called Shem HaEtzem. In other words, that the Shem Havaya is also very high and relates very closely to the Atzmus of the Eibishter. So therefore we could suggest that these two levels, both the one mentioned in the Pircha de Rabbi Eliezer and, of course, this pasuk, Ani Havaya Hu Shmi, they're talking about high levels in Shmoi. They're not all the detailed levels of Shmoi, which we find different names for the Eivshter later on. However, they're all Inyan of Shem, and everybody understands that Shem is not the Etzem. Shem is only a Ha'ora, a Gilui, but it's not the very essence of whatever is called by that name. So therefore, the very fact that Hashem Himself says Ani Havaya, but that is only my name, that implies that His essence is L'mayla from the Inyan of Shem. And Mamela, that tends to indicate that we've got two Inyanim, He Himself, His very essence, and His name, Zesha Oimrim or Zesha Kosuv. That's what's written in the pasuk. B'chol yom avolchecha v'yahalolo shimcha le'elam. Before it, but hopefully everybody remembers that pasuk. It's well known a pasuk to say maybe 3 times a day or twice a day for sure. Well, that would be of assistance in helping you to remember it. Or that's the second pasuk in Ashrei. Yeah, Ashrei b'chol yom avachecha v'alol hashimcha le'elam. Go ahead. So we see then that the pasuk says that every day I will literally bless you, and after that I will praise and laudate your name. So we see that in one linkage and in one, what's called in the Gemara, in one kli, as it were, I mention him and his name, and I relate to them in a very close way, conceptually. I say, I will praise you, I will bless you every day, and I will praise your name. It's like one hemshah, which tends to indicate that the name is very much linked with the very essence, even though the two in your name. V'yoma, and we say, l'chot teiv l'hoidais, u'l'shimcha no'ele zameir. We also say that every day in davening, but that's only once every day. So that would be a little bit hard to maybe be audacious to think you remember that, but that's in the Baruch Shoma, right near the end. We say that it's good to praise you or to give thanks to you and to sing to your name. So we see once again, Kama Dugmois are both in the Psukim and in the Direi Paitonim of the great early prayers. I mean, the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch about Baruch She'oma, the greatness of the Piyut Baruch She'oma. You know what's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. How do we know the Baruch She'oma? Because a Pischot Nofel min Shmayo. In the time of the Anshe Knesset Gadol, there fell down a pischot, they said a parchment that fell down from heaven into the hands of the Anshe Knesset Gadol, and was written on it, Baruch She'oma v'hoy oel v'tagam to Inya. In other words, that when the Anshe Knesset Gadol were trying to draw up the tefillahs, the Eibush to send them down Inya from heaven, they should know at least how to begin the whole thing. But that's Inya from Baruch She'oma. That's what it brings it in Shulchan Aruch. If he's there, it follows that these are very holy things. They're either psukim or they're divinely inspired prayers, which were given anyway from heaven. And they say that there's I'll give thanks to you or to him and to his name in one linkage and immediate hemshech or continuation. What that tends to indicate, that is two dargis, you yourself, and then the infant, Shimcha, Aza, I made a bit of Shimcha, it's very linked and close to you, but it's another Madrega, it's not Mamish Hu Atzmi. V'chein, l'fi ma shekosu b'yeit chayim, inena tzimtzum shehoya ba'oirein tzei. He said also, the whole famous doctrine of the Arizal over there at the beginning of the Eitz Chaim, the Tzimtzuma Harishoin, the infant Tzimtzum, Amavur Shom. So the Rebbe said that's only in the Oyer Ein Seif, that's in the divine light. He says, what are you talking, Klau? Kol Zeh, Loima Beha, Atzmus Mamish. You can't possibly say that the Eibush in his very essence was metzamtzem himself, that he limited his own essence. Doesn't look try to say Cholile Dova Chazeh. Where did it happen? The Inif and the Tzimtzum happened in a Gilui Mimeno, the Hain of the Oyer. And that's what we say, that the Arizal is Madgish over there. Where did the Tzimtzum occur? It occurred in the Oyer Elyoin, Poshet Shehoyim Mamalis Kol Aman Matthias, but he's careful to say there was a Oyer Elyoin Poshut, not the union of Atzmi Atzmi, that's where it occurred, the union of the Tzimtzum. In a Chibazah, it follows if he's there, that we're talking, Kamasha Kosu Petera, Dibo Amasku Posich Eli, Bele Posach Eliyahu. Well, that's a famous mime in Pasha Vayero from the Alter Rebbe, in Torah, not far from the beginning. Well, over there he talks about the union of the Tzimtzum and the Spiros and all the union, and the Rebbe Shab wrote a famous series of Hagoyas on that mime, which are called the Hagoyas Laposich Eliyahu, Tofreish Nun Ches. And they are full of tremendous, very long work. It's a whole little booklet all in its own right. Certain observations that the Rebbe Rashab wrote on that famous Maimon, the Posach Eliyahu, which deal a lot with the whole concept of Tzimtzum and where did the Tzimtzum occur and how did it function, and it wasn't really Kipshutim Pshute, there was a Tzimtzum, but there wasn't. You know, the whole Arichas, the whole Inyan over there. So, but Al Chaponim, it's written clearly in the Maimah over there in Torah that the Inyan of the Tzimtzum is only Shaykh in Oyer Ein Sof, but not in the very Atzmas of the Eibishter. Good. So that's a series of what you might call essential heichachas that we see either in the prayers or in the Pesukim or in the statements of Al-Admoinium, like Rabbi Eliezer, or in the Lashon of the Arizal. Chaim said the Rabbi, another proof that there must be kilu intermediary ha'ora after the atzmas, or nimshach miha atzmas. He said another proof to that is mashakosu b'sfarim, what is brought down in Sfarim. And now when he says Sfarim, it means the great early period, the Rishonim, with the Sefer HaIkrim and others, what they call the Bria. They say that the Bria is Yesh Mi Ayin. They use the expression that came about in an over for Yesh Ayin, the so-called something came from the absolute nothing. And the first said to Rabbi, what do they mean by saying Yesh Mi Ayin? It's a pasuk in Divrei Yomim where it says everything comes from you. Everything is from the from the Eibishter. So if everything's from the Eibishter, how can you how can you possibly say that the Bria is Yesh Mi Ayin? What is Ayin? What is the word Ayin? Naught or nothing. Ayin is the naught or the negation. And if the Eibishter, you can't call him Ayin. You can't say that the Bria is Yesh Mi Ayin, meaning from the nothing. Everything comes from him. It must have come from him, and you can't call him Ayin. In other words, it should have really been said exactly the other way around. It should have been said that the Bria was Ayin Mi Yesh. I know that the Yesh is really absolute Ayin. It's nothing. What is the Yesh? It has no real Matthias. And the Eibishter, he's the Yeshua Amiti. He's the Emes existence. He's the Emes, as it's called in Yiddish, Verhannenkeit. The very Emes of being present, of being what it is. We should have really said Ayin Mi Yesh. But nonetheless, the Sfarim say Yesh Mi Ayin. And so if you say that the Bria was Mamish Me'atzmusei, then you can't use such a Lashon, because everything comes from him ultimately. Ve'echu Mi Ayin. Ela Teretzu, the answer to that is Shafilu Mekoyer HaHavayas, or Hayas, Shal Kolo Elements. Even the Mokir, not the actual Chayas itself yet, but even the Mokir of all the Chayas, of all the elements, Nikra Ayin. It's called absolute nothing. Ukaloi Choshivei Mamish Legabi Mohuse Beyat Mose. In other words, that the Mokir of all the Chayas and all the Bria and all the Yisavas and all the Inyanim, it's all from such a level which is called Legabi Atzmuse Ayin. So therefore it's going to make very good sense why you say Yesh Mi Ayin, because you're talking downwards towards the ultimate created being, and you want to call him the Yesh. So you say that he is a Yesh, but where did he came from? He came from a level of absolute Ayin, meaning he came from a level which Legabi, the Atzmas, is Ayin. But not that the Atzmas himself is Ayin. Chodila, Loimadovaka. So he said, and if we learn that pshat, so then it makes very good sense, that Lashon. Then that Lashon becomes exact. And that's what is written in Eiv. That's what Eiv says. Eiv says that the Chokhmah is to be found from the naught, or from the nothing. So what did he mean with that? Was it a touch of Chokhmah Mi'ayin Timotei? It appears that the word Timotei is from Russian Matthias. It is to be found as it is to be seen as an entity. Timotei. So that means that Chokhmah is already a gedia of a Matthias. Chokhmah fits Kemuvan into a certain Indian definitional status of Matthias. How did that Matthias come about, or where did it come from? It came from Ayin. It came from a level which is Ayin. And we all know where the Chokhmah came from. Chokhmah came from the Ein Sof Shel Spirit, from Keser. It's a Sivan that there's an intermediary level which we call either Keser or Ein Sof or Lashenis of that nature, and that's called Ayin. The proper name for that is Ayin. Why? Because compared to the Boyre B'Shlei Musa, that is Ayin. It follows that even the first Gilui of the spheres, which is Chokhmah, and that's the highest Madrega in the spheres, or that's a Ayin for Timotei, it's a Ayin for Matthias, and it's well known to be over there that a Matzia is also a thing that you don't see where it came from. When you find a Matzia, you guys have learned to, I don't know, you've heard about it no doubt. Elu Matzias, what a Matzia means the thing that you find. So you're walking along, all of a sudden it appears there, you don't know where it came from. Because if you do, then you're supposed to give it back to it. And the whole question is, how can you eventually possess it if you can't really work out who the owner is, etc. etc. Whether you're mechuyev to announce that you found it, etc. etc. K'mavur barich in that parak, and afterwards in the Inif and Halachas in Chosh Mishput v'chulo. Erefa, that's in of a matzia. So a matzia means something that's there that you don't see where it came from. So that means that the Inif of Chokhmah is the emes concept at the beginning of the whole in of the spirit, because it's like a matzia, meaning that it's already a credible, as you might say, entity. It's already a defined entity, and you can't really identify exactly where it came from. And the Pinimi is Lama, because it comes from a level which is Ein Nochanami, and it's very self. It's not an entity. It's a different Ayin. It's Hepuk, the Inyan of Matthias, because it is bottle batakless to the Inyan of the Boire. So therefore that makes very good sense. Chokhmah mi Ayin Timotei, and that Ayin is referring to the mocker of all the spheres. So therefore that's what Eob said. Pirush Chokhmah Eloah. That is the name, according to the Zohar, for the first sphere in Atzilus, Chokhmah Eloah. Reishis HaAtzilus. That's the very beginning, the first point in the whole olam of Atzilus. Shehisavusa me Ein Sof b'pchinas yesh mi ayin. We see that its whole way of coming about is in the form of yesh mi ayin. We just pointed out Timotei means it's already become a certain Matthias, and so much so that it even hides where it really came from. And so therefore he said yesh mi ayin loy b'derech ishtalshelis ilava. It didn't come about in our ordered way of derivative, source point and derivative. Ilava alul. It came about in a so-called drastic way, yesh min ha'ayin, meaning that it became a inif and yesh timotei loshem matziyas, of the madrega it came from is ayin. So it's one on the biyah there that yesh in that itself, two, as it were, nuances. There's the nuance of ayin in the sense that we don't really understand it, and therefore we call it ayin because we can see the matziyah, and we can experience the geder of that matziyah of Chokhmah, but we can't really experience where it came from, and therefore we can call it ayin in the sense of eino yadua, eino musag, lanu. But the beauty we're stressing here is that it's also from a level of ayin legabi the atmos haboire, that it's called ayin also because the mokia for that is not the atmos haboire, but a level which legabi him it is ayin. But it's a very important level because it carries his ability to produce a thing like Chokhmah. And of her, that's the union of the middle point that we're aiming at the whole time. Hine, Mikol Moki. However, said the Rebbe, the other way back, Gam Moki Zeh Amahava HaChokhmah, B'Pchinas Yesh Mi'ayin, Nikro Ayin Vo'epes, Mamish Legabi Mohusei V'Atzmusei, the Kaloicha He said, however, you must take very careful stress to that is called Yesh Mi Ayin. Why? Because that comes from such a Mokeh. But that's the Mokeh which produces the Chokmah. Begolui, well, that's as we pointed out, that's called Ayin Legabi the Mahusi Vatzmusi of the Eibishter, and it's mamish like nothing compared to him. It's only a Ha'orabil. But as we're pointing out, it's absolutely nothing Legabi it. And therefore we can call it Yesh Miha Ayin. It comes from as our level, which for our purposes here in this argument, we're calling it Ayin Legabi the Atzmas. And therefore it's called Ayin Amiti, because it's Kalei Choshiv, it has no importance or state or entity, whatever, Legabi Mohuseviyat. Did I go back? I went back a line, did I, or no? No, I didn't. Yes, I did. I did. But that's because of our Chacham Vayin Timotei. Pure Chacham Elo Reish Atil is between Yesh Me'ayin Lo B'Dever. And if we call Mokim, oh yes, I'm okay. Yeah. Yesh Me'ayin Nikra Ayin Vo'ev Mamish Legabi Musa. Duchalei Chashiva. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I'd skipped a line. V'hainu. And why is that? Mishum Shemokeh Zeh Hu B'chinas Seivev Kol Almin ובאמס, שמהוסי ועצמוסי יתברך, למעלה גם מליש בחינס סבב לא עלמין. He said, אינה בגדר עלמין, כי, why is that? אינה בגדר עלמין כלל. So now here we're making now a slightly different move. What we're going to suggest now is that Mokeh is nonetheless called Seivev Kol Almin. Now, what is the implication of that? But what you say that something is Seivev Kol Almin, then you mean that even though it's Kol Almin, it's Seivev to something, but it's withdrawn from them and what you might call transcendent, Seivev Kol Almin. So what the Rebbe is saying, that Mokeh of Chokhmah, which we just said it was Ayin Legabi Mahusi Vatzmusei, well, that is the Inyan, really, that's the Inyan from Keser. What in Keser Atzma Yesh Kama Madregas. So let's say it's the Inyan from Ariko, let's say. It's what he called Kitzat El Spheres. Over Legabi, the Inyan from Spheres, and afterwards the Inyan from Eilamas, then that's called Seivev Kol Almin. That's a Madrega of Ein Sof, which is still, completely transcendent equally to all the elements. Not only to Chokhmah, but to all of the elements. Another of it, the Chiddush is, even Chokhmah is also completely and utterly bottled at such a level, because it's Mokeh, it's Seivev Makifle Kol Ha'elamers. Lefise, Kumtais, that even though we say it's Kayin or Efes, it's nonetheless it's a Inifan Seivev Kol Almin. Nonetheless, the Chiddush is that it's still Ayin Vo'efes Legabi HaKodesh. In other words, that Emes, it also has in itself this Mila of being unaffected and what you might call altered by the Inifan they actually Sabbath, or they bring about a Chokhmah, or they bring about all the other spirits, because it remains Muvdo Mehem, and it's only a Ha'orabil Vad which enters into the spirits and gives them their life, B'derech Pnimis and B'derech Slavchas. So Enoch Hanami, it's also Muvdal, but Legabi Mahusi Vatzmusei, it's only a Ha'orabil Vad. So even though it's Seivev Kol Almin, nonetheless, it's also, how to call it, Ayin Vo'efes Legabi the Eibishter. So that's what he adds now. However, ובאמס שמהוסי ועצמוסי is borach למעלה גם לי יש בחינת סייבב. And that's the Chiddush, that even if you move up, it's almost like that he's warning a kashya. That you might say, wait a minute, if you're talking about Chokhmah, and Chokhmah is the first spirit of Atzilus. Atzilus is still Mamish Elikus. Elamayla me Atzilus is Keser. And Keser is even from Seivev Kol Almin. All the Almin are all Mesuvavim, and they're all Botel Gabe Keser, which is Seivev Kol Almin. So maybe that has some sort of a place Legabida Eibishter. So that's what he said. No, even if you'll find, I feel you will say that that is the Inif Kesser, which is Seibe. Nonetheless, it's also only a Ha'ora, and it's also Ayin Vo'efes Legabei. It still fits into the general category of Yesh Mino and the Inif Chokma Yesh, and that is the Inif Ayin. So that's what he wanted, but that sentence, that even though it's Seivu Kalamin, nonetheless the truth is that Mahusi Vatzmuz is Mailan Gambiliet Bechina Seive. Ki Eina Begeda Almin Klau. When we say Seive Kol Almin, then we show somehow that the Seive has got some reference to the Almin. It's called Seive Kol Almin, which means that there must be some basis of relationship even to the Almin, even though you say it's transcendent from them. However, Legabi the Atzmas of the Eibusha, you can't say he's Seivu Kol Almin, because he's got nothing to do with Almin, but so he's completely withdrawn altogether from Almin. V'hainu Kameshikosuv, and that makes sense with the pasuk that we say also in davening every day, and we'll be audacious enough to assume with some audacity that maybe somebody remembers where that occurs in the davening. Ki nizgov shmeila lavadoi, and then we say hoide al eretz shamayim. I can see there's no takers for it, even though so we've often remarked with the slightly humorous quip that means that you guys have an amazing davening every day. It's a new davening. You don't remember what you davened today, but before, so since you don't remember Klau what you davened before, every day is a new davening. All sorts of millions you don't remember you said them yesterday. So that means that we poor old guys, we do remember what we said yesterday. So we got an extra piece of work that we're nonetheless got to be called Yom Yu Bein Echa Chadosh. But you guys have got easy tasks. Called Yom Bein Echa Chadosh. But you guys, it's just a simple fact. Anyway, whatever. So it follows that we say every day in davening, Ki Nizgov Shmoi Levadoi, that the Eibishter's name is literally elevated or tremendously held high, all on its own. Ki Nizgov Shmoi Levadoi. So now I might have thought that was possible to say about Hashem, which it is. Ki Nizgov Levadoi, that the Eibishter is for sure withdrawn completely on his own. In other words, that he doesn't really have any oilamos, nothing could really relate to him. That could have been said about the very essence of Hashem, couldn't it? That's what could have happened. Nonetheless, we say a chiddush that Ki Nizgov Shmoi, that even his name is completely withdrawn, and it's also on its own. It's killed, nothing could really have any tfisas makom, it could really have any place. Legabi it. Pirush. Afilu mashu b'chinas nizgov, or that which is absolutely elevated and withdrawn and transcendent. Hainu seivev kol almin, even the level of seivev, shu nizgav v'kodesh umuda. Why is it called seivev? Because it is elevated and withdrawn and completely separated. It's only the Inif and Shmoi Levadoi. So here he doesn't need the word Levadoi to help him with the idea of bringing on its own. Here he teaches Shmoi Levadoi, meaning it's only Shmoi. In other words, it Nizgov, absolutely elevated and everything, just like you would think about Hashem himself, is Shmoi Levadoi. Even though it's only Shmoi, it's Nizgov. So how can that possibly be? Because we're talking about Tziv Kolam. Tziv Kolam is like a very elevated Legabi the Elames, but Legabi him, it's also only an Inif and Shmoi Rak, that we give it, Shahu Nikra Shmoi Ha, that we save the days, or we save the COVID of the Tziv Kolam a little bit, And in other places we call it Shmoi HaGodel. In other words, it's still Shmoi, and it's only Shmoi Levada, it's only Shmoi, but yeah, it's in Shmoi Gufa, a higher Madrega, and therefore it's like all the elements, it's in an even fun Maki. But it's also Rak Ayin Shel Shmoi. And that's what we say at the end of the Baruch She'omar, yeah, Meshubach HaMofoya Adei Ad Shmoi HaGodel. But once again, we had the problem of assuming that people remember that they said that just this morning, but you did. I trust that you did. Meshubach HaMofoya Adei Ad Shmoi HaGodel. So here we see that the Bakosha Me'uyim, what I have to everybody in this program, that they shouldn't hurry the davening. And it's well known that there used to be Chassidim, but they used to pause by every word, even though they may not have been Mizboin and Bizbonin, Gedel Amuke and all sorts of Inyonim for Shoyes, Nochanan, but they used to say by the davening, they used to pause by every word to make sure that they were in it, and they got what that was about, and then they move on to the next word. I remember that davening used to take them time just because of that. So you might say, well, I got to learn, what's this whole business of davening? So we see that it's well known that without davening, the learning doesn't really make any real clip, it doesn't really sink in and absorb into the person. And that's what we see. There's a famous piece in the Gemara. I don't want to be marek in these inyonim, but it is necessary to point this out, because I've noticed for a lot of people in the program that they seem to think that davening is get it over quickly and then get your nose back in a safe or something of that nature. Because they're lo kein kach, lo kein hadvorim. There has to be the infinite shtadlers and the infinite davening. We call the Alter Rebbe brings in time that you have to be mispal. You have to learn you have to learn what absolute devotion is, all like Kabbalah Seil, Etzim, and immediately after he said, V'lispal b'kol koichai mamit. And it was not just to learn, but to daven. And that's what we see at the famous Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. In the first parak, it brings it that Rav Amanina, what was it? Chazi Rav or something. Rav Amanina dahavim marik b'tzloitza. He saw that he used to daven long. He says to him, "Manichim chayolam v'oiskim b'chay shor." He said, "Well, you put aside the life of all the worlds, and you're just taking a temporary life." In other words, davening is only chay shor according to him. Torah is chayoy. Elamed. I was saying, kind of what he calls a view of pnimis in those two expressions. What did he mean by calling Torah Chai Elam, Atila calling Chai Shor? I ain't kind of mocking my heart. There's a bigger reason and says about those in Yonim. However, that's what he timed to Rav Amanina. And what he meant to say was that learning is the ik and davening is, a second in him, but it's not as great as learning is. Why would you spend a long time davening? In other words, do the davening and get back to the Chai Elamim. After him, Rav Amanina, and he said to him, Zman Torah l'chud, Uzman Tefillah l'chud. In other words, he said, there's time for learning and there's time for davening. It's two separate in Yonim, and don't say that is Chai Elam and that's Chai Shor, and both of them are essential, one to the idea. In other words, that without learning you can't have davening, or without davening you can't have learning. And don't look in other things when I'm talking important in Yonim. That's some min machlava that never used to be one time. Nowadays, you got all these little, how do you call it, knackers, but you start saying something important, let's look up something, who needs to hear this and that. And I say that's what leads to the lack, That's not the way you become a lamda. That's the way you become a mavuba. That's not the way you become a lamda. The way you become a lamdan is that you listen to those who are elder than you, to what they say. and you listen with exactly the same way as you listen to the Bifnim. And if you don't, you think you're becoming a lamda and you're becoming a mavuba. Va'isha hadova b'negei to the infant tefillah. And that's what we see here. So we're touching here all the different lashonos that come out in davening, and that's what Rav HaManina answered him. That's what he answered to Rav, and he said that Zman Tefillah L'chud was Zman Torah, was Torah L'chud and Zman Tefillah L'chud. Each has got its own inyan. And so some of the great Achronim learn, or the great Meforshim, they learn that Daddy was koilach of what Rav said. He didn't agree with it. Rav said to him, "Hey, talking about he thought that was a pshi. He thought that was it. You know, he's got it. What are you doing? You know, drop the sorikas at tefillah and go back to learning." And he said, "No, Zman Tefillah L'chud was Zman Torah L'chud." He showed him that he didn't agree with him. And Adarabah, Davke the meaning for tefillah, that's the kli to Torah. Davke already said, yeah, so it's important. You should pay attention to your davening. And you should take a remember from one day to the other a little bit what you do. Maybe not all, nicht alle Pesukim, alle Lashonos. It's a lot. I am asking. It's a lot. They're hard. Or at least I have a the main thing is to get back here, do there, go here. Yeah. Oh, the next thing that's important is learning. Oh, learning very important. I get a smicha, I get a pip on my shoulder, somebody else. And somebody else say that I did something when I was in you, davening, which I did anything, which was Maasiti was a davening. Well, there's a heap of kavanah. This is tipshus. This person tipshus aki gedolim. And therefore it bothers me that guys have at the davening, it bothers me. And I don't hurry my davening, b'chlal. I mean, I do, when I daven with you guys. I was said to Shemoneh, I'm worried I'm going to be holding everybody up. When I finish, Shemoneh said, well, I've just said the words. Everybody's waiting for me. And you mean to tell me that all these guys know Russian Kodesh better than me? And then when they finished off all the dumbing, we've done it all, we've done it all, said it all. What's this old schlepper? What's he still schlepping around here? You know? I hear some of the tables move at the back, and they're Chepet Meter, and there was a smart aleck, and there was something else. That's what they do. So the whole meaning of Tomchei Tmimah. They asked the Rebbe Rashab, what was he doing, founding a separate yeshiva called Tomchei Tmimah? And he said that he wanted to bochim so nomna chayis pnimiyas in Avedas Atfilah. That's what he said. I want them to learn and to be lomdim, and they were. The original Tmimah and Tomchei Tmimah were all geonim, the mamish bochi in Gemaras, and they became all rabbonim. Almost all of them became rabbonim in different parts of Russia, and they had Mesiras Nefesh for Yiddishkeit, for everything. They were big lomdim. At the same time, they used to daven. I knew one of his relatives here at Chabad. He told me about this Rav. That he was a Rav in a kehillah. He used to daven every day. So long, they never had any time to do anything. He used to just daven. Then he had all people coming in asking him shilas, and he had to go to the shkit. He's just taking off his tefillin, he's going here and going there. But every time they came, they found him davening. They said, listen, what you man, what did you never seem to be stopping davening, you always seem to be davening. And they wanted him, Dafki, to be the Rav. He was the Rav. And at Kipaskin, he was a Gaon Shebarabonim. Trouble is, mit daven ehrlich, and the Eibster held that somehow or another he managed to daven with ehrlichkeit. So then you know the way into the Torah. Zman Tefillah L'chud v'Zman Torah L'chud. I mean, it's not a joke. We have to listen what stated the Tefillah. Go up the Tefillah, let's get it all done, let's get somewhere. Don't even know where. Where's the Shvaz? So you get back to the dorms another 5 minutes earlier. I mean, anyway, you waste the whole 5 minutes. So spend it in davening. You fellas have no idea what Tomchei Tmimah was to look like once upon a time. When I first came to the yeshiva way back in the Toshin Kopei, he said, you had guys that used to stand and daven mamish, I was a davening. They used to come late into the Seder Nigla and they used to get into trouble with the mashgichim. It's an old problem about it. A very old problem. That the ones who used to daven, probably they used to have problems with getting to Seder Nigla on time. They used to cop it. Yeah, nonetheless, nobody ever really stopped it, because that's what the Rosh wanted. That's what he wanted. So close as it was. There's a whole famous story about the Friedrich. I once told you guys a story about the Friedrich. There was a guy who started davening long, and they said he can't do it. He doesn't know anything. What's he doing davening long with the whole thing? And they brought him in the Rav Friedrich. He was the Menahel of Talmud Torah, was the Friedrich. And he had clothes. I mean, you've seen it in the pictures, you know. The Friedrich of his crew was just 8 people up, you know, live with the height. It's good for hours. All of a sudden they bring in this pocher in front of the Friedrich. And here's the mashgiach in the Nigla, here's the mashgiach in the Chassidus. The other Rabbanim, and in the middle of this warm, dick face, and the Friedrich of little bottles brought in. What are you doing, you know? How come you're davening long, you know, what are you up to? You know? So you know what he answered him? He just said, listen, I don't understand. He said, but when I came here, I was told that there's a Rebbe. He said, and the Rebbe says things, and that's called Chassidus. He said, I got to know what he says. I got to work it out. And not only I got to know, but I got to make it part of my life, haven't I? So I can't do that in a few minutes. I got to work at it, you know. I said, what do you guys want of me? You brought me in, you told me there's a Rebbe, and now you tell me that I'm not to do what he wants of me. So the mashgiach of Nigla looked at the mashgiach of Chassidus, and they looked at the Friedrich, and the Friedrich just stared at him for a minute. And the Friedrich returned to the two mashgiachim, and he said, leave him alone. Let him go. And then he turned to the bocher, and he said, it's all true. He said, what do you say? Just the same. He said, on Yom Kippur we say Tanila, no kol midah nechoina. We ask the Eivusher, please give us the right measure. You know, you got to find the right measure. You can't just completely. But the Friedrich said, don't chip with it. I heard about an alto chassid. What he knew about it, he can. Friedrich looked at these two sheikhim. Don't interfere with him, leave him alone. And then he turned to the book and he said, listen, you're right, that's 100%, but you know, you have to find a little bit of a proper balance. You can't come 3 hours late. Can you? You mustn't come 3 hours late, you mustn't come half an hour, 20 minutes late, you have to come on time. But you have to do it in a proper way. Alright, so it says the Rebbe Levad Shehu Anikra Shmoi HaGodel, that's Seivu Kolamim. But nonetheless, it's a inifin Shmoi, even though it's Seivu Kolamim. Ki bechinas Seivu Hu Shehu bechinas Makif Lo Elames. Ve'im hi yesh bezeh gam kein Makif Korev or Makif Rochek. כמו היה לבוש שעשוי למידס הגוף ממש ובחינס מקיף בייס שמקיף מרוקק ואלה מידס הגוף כולו כמו שכוס מוחי מחה עם כל זה בייס הבחינס לא יצוד כולוימה על מהוסי ויד מוסי שאין בגד העלמין כלל אפילו ליש בחינס סייב להם באיזה איפן ומדרגה שיהיה. So therefore the Rebbe, that even though we call the Madrega of the Makif, we call it Seivev Kolam. What that means that it's Makif, and in Makif itself there are 2 levels. In other words, what we call a Makif HaKorev and a Makif HaRochok. And the mashal for them is what we call Levush and Bayis. Well, we see that when you put on a garment, that's a makif to you. The garment doesn't enter you. You know, you don't absorb the garment inside your system, and you don't eat your garment, anything like that. Your garment is a lavush, which is a makif. However, it's only according to your measurement, which means that it's a makif, which is a makif, which is karov ela midah ve'ela keli. And that's that we find in Ruchnias, we find that there are certain makifim which albeit their shoyrosh is also in makif, but they're makif more to proteistic things. And then we find that as an example of a house. What a house is makif you in a much more transcendent way. It doesn't refer to your body so much. It's just makif you completely all over at one go. But that's the union of what was called makifa mirochik. That's a makif on a much higher level. And the examples for those are, for example, the Alter brings in Tanya, in Perek Kov Gimel and other places, that the moichin are called makifim to the midas. In other words, that the pnimis of the moichin, they always remain, as a word, transcendent, even to the midas which come out of the moichin. Even when you use your mind to produce a midah, over the actual moichin, which were the source of that, is bonanas, which brought to the midah, always remain in a greater oifen and in a greater unlimited or ungrasped inside the midah. So we see that even in the koiches pnimim there are certain traces of makifim legabi the pnimim. So that's called a makif hakorev. It's a makif, but it's a makif which is already somewhat measured according to the midas. And we find even in the makif elyon yoter, which is lamaila even from the koiches pnimim, and that's a rotzen. We find that there are different types of rotzonos. But there's a rotzen which is called a rotzen al pitam vo das. In other words, that even though the actual rotzen itself is never really al pitam vo das, anything you want, you want. It's not that you worked it all out first in your seichel, and then you say, oh, now I've made this whole calculation, now I want it. In Emerson, you really want things because you want them. That's what Thomas said. However, there's a rotzen which you can literally explain it later. You can say to people, well, you know why I want that? Because, look, kach, which means that rotzen is able to enter the field of seichel and be somewhat explained even according to seichel. For example, somebody who really likes Sfarim, and he's got a Mishagayas, as you might call it, for Sfarim, then he can always say, why do I need the Sfarim in him? Because, I gain a tremendous benefit, and it's this and it's that, and it's something else, and the whole readers. But, Sokosov, he's got a rotzen pinimi for Sfarim, what doesn't mitzad the rotzen, but it's able to enter a certain, And then there's a much higher rotzen, what we call a rotzen atzmi, the rotzen pinimi. That is, for example, that a Yid only wants Elikus and he's not prepared for anything else. That's what we call the Inafi Yechida. What those are retainers that have no shaykhs to town for das, and they're what's called like an all-enveloping rotzen that just surrounds everything until it's even brought in. So that the Yechida is such a makif that it's not really able to be inside your body, but it rests inside your daled. Amen. So when you walk around, you're carrying your yeshida with you inside your whole daled. Amen. So in other words, that's a makif ha-rochok. So we see there are all sorts of different makifim. So the Rebbe says, emes soivev kol almin. There's also got that. Soivev kol almin can have a makif ha-korev. Like we said, it can be a makif mitzad the moichin, or mitzad arich anpin, or it can be a makif mitzad atik and pnimis atik, but that's all a makif ha-kloli. So therefore we see that there are different levels in the Indian fan, makifim. So you might want to say, well, maybe one makif, we could say that's so high that that's already mahusi viat. So he says, no. That Im calls, even though it's right that there is a much higher form of a makif, nonetheless, base habachinas, meaning also the makif ha-rochok, the elevated makif, lo yitzadku loima al mahusi vatmas. They would not be correct to say in reference to mahusi viat, me'atzmusay, she'ena begeda al min klal, afilu liyeit bechina. So even he's got no reference whatsoever to the union of the elements whatsoever, and even in the makif harochik we still call it Sivan kol Almin, in other words, the very fact that you use the word sovev means that you're starting with the elements and saying, oh, here I've got the elements. That is sovev to where I am. And therefore we call it sovev kol almin. Over the Eibishter, when he doesn't, nothing has any reference to him whatsoever. It's not trying to say, Amachiva Koriba, Amachiva Arochik. And as far as he's concerned, ain't shum inyan klal uklal l'shumin. Therefore, he is incomparably higher even than the Indian von Seive. And therefore he said, Lo yitzadku lo ima al ma'usev atzmusei, she'ena beged al min klal afilu li'et b'china Seive lohem, be'izo even a madrega she'yeh, in any manner or madrega that you shouldn't dream up, nonetheless, legabi the elements, you can time that that's a Seive. But it doesn't have anything to do with Atzmusi. As far as Atzmusi is concerned, it's only a oil, and it's only a ha'or it is, loy is bara. Amamina zesha omrim, that's what we say. Also in davening, Ato Hashem leva. That's what we mean to say that you, Eibishter, are completely on your own. So now, once again, we'll do audacious to ask anybody where we say that in. Huh? In Yevorik Dovid. In Yevorik Dovid, just near the middle, we say, Ato Hashem levadecha. You are on your own, and then we say, Ato Asisa Shamayim. Shmaya Shamayim B'chol Torah Zikor Yaleh V'Tor Machayeh Et Kulam. You don't remember that pussy? Even when it shouted at you like that, you don't remember? That's in the middle of the piece of davening in Psuchid Azim, which is called Vayevorei David. Now that's a posse from Nehemiah. Of all things, doesn't Jizok Nehemiah know it. Yeah, so what did he say? He said, Atahu Hashem livadecha. You are completely on your own. Now what does that mean? You are completely on your own? Rabbeinu Shalom. All the oilams, millions and trillions of oilams in Gashmis and in Ruchnis, what do you mean, Atahu Levai meaning that you Ator, referring to the Atzmas, you are completely Vadecha. Even though all these things came about, they don't have any reference to you. Even the union of Seivei Kol Almin, it doesn't have any reference to you whatsoever. You are completely, utterly beyond that altogether. Zesha Oma Ato Hashem Levadecha. Ve'im noima shenimshach liyei b'chinas Seivev lo almin, afu pi she'eino is pilus chas v'sholem, im kol zeh yiridahi. So that was the fact that we say Ato Hashem leva decha means that all these inyonim which came about, don't all of that you're on your no, right? And if we're going to say no, the Eibish's Mahus Atzmas does go down into a state of Seivev. So Emma Seivev is not his pilot of Okaponim, he's already gone down towards that. It's no longer just he all completely on his own. Even if he approaches it in the form of Seivev, nonetheless he's reckoning with it in some way or Oifan. What that means, like him, would be a Yerida. But immediately you say he's makif to that, then it means that somehow or another that is there, that he's being makif to it. You can't possibly say that he is Leva Decha. What Leva Decha means absolutely withdrawn on his own.
Why don't we say we should just say
why do we put in there the Enif in the Shem Havaya? Because it's put down and says there's two madrigas or three madrigas in the Shem Havaya. The Shem Havaya shouts Shaikat to Sfiras, then there's the Shem Havaya Shem Maila Mias Sfiras, what that's called the Shem Havaya de Liela, that's yes the Sfiras Haganuzis, and then there's Enif and Havaya, which is Mamish Atzmusi Isbara. And that's what the Rambam brings at the beginning. So the Rambam says, you say it, how you say it is Be'omad HaChochmes, whatever he's talking about a mitas, he matzoy, and the Rosh Tevas, you say it, how you say it is Be'omad HaChochmes, is Shem Havaya. So it's brought down in some of the great early commentators in the Mekubalim, and brought down in Silas Barichas, that that's referring to the Shem Havaya mitzad the Atzma. Yesh Tavakas. Amamela, so he says, Ato Havaya Levadelcha, Ve'im noim hashanim shakli b'chinas Seivev la'almin. No, that the Eibishter's essence is really become Seivev Afu Pishain is pilus, you can say that it's only saving, so therefore it's not mamish into reaction or emotional kabiyoho reaction. It's some sort of going in towards the Eilamet, some sort of descent towards them. So it's like becoming a machib to something. How can he possibly complete on his own? He's reckoning with something. Or BMS, mamish b'finas hadola legamre gam ato. Afilu le'achas she'asiso es hashamayim. Even after you've done the heavens and the earth, you remain completely and utterly live all on your own. Mamish k'moy k'edem she'asiso. Even before you made them. Yeah, and that's how you are, just like you are. Before anything occurred, that's the way you are after everything occurred. So the simple nakuda of the whole thing is that berega, what you want to say to Avish is makif, then the word makif is a relative term, despite it's got a certain profundity in it, which could be called a makif harochi. Of a berega, what you say makif, then what does that mean? Makif means transcendent. So there has to be transcendent to something. The word transcendent or above or beyond or surrounding means that there's something that it's surrounding or something that it's makif to. And therefore, berega, what you say to David is makif, you've already made him reckon in some way with the Elamah, albeit in a very distant way, but you've made him reckon with them. And therefore you can't say that he's Sivan either. So what is Sivan? We have to say that there's a in between a oil band to that we can maybe call in certain madregas even that. Even in the oil we'll see that you call it savivils or certain urida in the oil. We see that there's a level which is not atmas, and it's not mamish yet the nimtoim, and yet we call it ein seif. That's what we're aiming at, and that's what we're trying to establish. And the Alter Rebbe is going to say eventually that even that is not mamish ein seif in its own right. It's only ein seif because it's me'ein ha-moya. So we'll see about that as we go along. But it's not muzi vayat. It's muzi. It's only iskalus mimenu. We see that little by little we are harikot. To use the expression, we're sewing it. We're sewing it up, and the truth is that the Rebbe already sewed up quite a few things a long time ago. Already many years ago, the Rebbe sewed them up, and if only we would be listening to him, who knows what would have been sewed up already. And so that's what we pointed out the other night, that in every generation, and every time, there's another. The Chassidus doesn't change, the messages are the same, but the way that Chassidus comes down and reveals itself to us, if you don't mind, that may be very important, but I don't think it's of any reference to what we're saying. That in every generation, it has to go through the gilui of these inyonim, how they come through the Nosi and the Novi and the Rabbi Shabba'isa Hazman. And if here we sort up the inif for the Hanimshak Mi'atzmas. Oh, the Anushim Be'atim should be Nim Talamata Mamis with the Inif and Gilui. Yeah, Mashiach Tzidkeinu. That's a further step. And that's what the Rebbe is about. Have a good evening, my gentlemen. And bring Mashiach now.